have a group of people themselves invested in development of a system, then you can expect the development of new varieties at a more rapid pace, improvements in yield, the development of new uses for soybean farmers to find new opportunities to sell their product. And so the use of the soybean checkoff to fund research, I think, is fundamental to the continued success to soybean production in the U.S. When I'm successful at the research that I do, the results are often tools for other people to use. My research is an enabling technology that makes it possible for soybean breeders to take the resources I develop and create soybean varieties more efficiently so that they can respond to the challenges that farmers are facing to increase yields while creating value for their products. Each farmer knows to match his production environment with this thing that we call maturity group, which is really a reflection of the soybean's response to the photoperiod. The maturity group classification allows farmers to know where they're producing soybeans and match that up with the soybean varieties that they need to grow. When soybean breeding happens, we need to pay attention to that because you cannot get high yields if you've mismatched the maturity group with the environment. And so what this means is that there's a constraint in soybean breeding that has to do with generating soybeans and classifying them by maturity group. My research had to do with getting a molecular genetic basis of how soybeans can be classified by maturity group. So over the past 3.5 years, I've worked on a project that was USB funded to take a research-based approach to understanding the molecular genetic basis of maturity group and then applying that so that soybean breeders could develop varieties with new traits faster and in broader adaptation zones with this new information. We were looking for a set of genes that we could characterize that would tell us what the predicted maturity group would be for any particular soybean line. We can account for about 75% of the variation in the different soybean maturity groups between what we call 00 and maturity group 5, which really was the limits of our exploration at this point. Our research on soybean maturity groups and the genes that control that will be particularly interesting to soybean breeders who are trying to rapidly develop new varieties with the most important traits for soybean farmers and ultimately consumers of the soybean products. So for instance, if you're breeding for maturity group 2 soybeans, which are really good for Iowa and Illinois and Indiana, what you'd like to do is take a high-yielding maturity group 2 soybean and cross it with some other high-yielding maturity group 2 soybeans so that you'll get a set of maturity group 2 soybeans. And what our model allows is that you could go outside of that comfort zone of just the maturity group 2 high yielders and maybe cross with a high-yielding maturity group 5 that has some particular stress resistance or disease resistance and bring that in and then not really worry about the fact that you're going to generate a wide range of maturities in the offspring. It allows you to just focus on the ones that are still going to be the maturity that you want. The research was really successful. We started out not knowing much about what genes really controlled maturity group, and when we finished the project, we were able to specify 3 genes that accounted for almost 75% of the variation that controlled maturity group. There's an opportunity when you know how to target particular soybean maturity groups to bring in diverse germplasm into your breeding program, and this could reflect the ability to bring in diverse genes for yield, for stress resistances, for new composition traits. And it is an enabling technology so that you don't have to worry about getting back the wrong maturity group. You can bring in new traits and then target those maturity groups that you need to deploy that trait. We feel like we have fundamentally answered some questions. We have addressed the challenges. We have a working model. It has some accuracy. It's validated. So we hope that what we develop ultimately gets into the hands of farmers, produced by the farmers, all the way into the hands of consumers who support our agricultural economy. To learn more about the kinds of research that I do with checkoff dollars or others, please visit the United Soybean Board website.